The LA Clippers are back to winning ways against the Washington Wizards, and the good news, Paul George returned, and he looked good. And how about a tale of three quarters for our three stars in the starting lineup, but sadly, the fourth Hall of Famer goes down with an injury. Going to be talking about all things that went down on Friday night at Staples Center as the Clippers beat the Washington Wizards on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where I want you to let me know what you thought of Paul George's return and how you think the Russell Westbrook injury is going to affect us. We're going to be talking about all that in this episode. So this episode, before we get into it, is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All you got to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot at any bet. But okay, Clipper Nation, thankfully back to winning ways. We had lost 3 out of the first 4 games since the All-Star break. Obviously, that game against the Lakers was as brutal as it gets. But yeah, this was a routine game, and we needed to win it, right? But the good news was before the game that Paul George returned from a 2-game absence with that knee injury, and that was huge because there was a report the day before that the injury was changed to meniscus irritation. And anytime I hear meniscus and stuff like that, that scares me. By the way, for anybody that's watching on YouTube and are wondering why don't you have your green screen on, the lighting was just messing up. So I'm just going to run it like this. I'm really low on time right now. I have to go coach 2 games today. So I'm really low on time. So this is just, the audio people doesn't matter. But I just want to say, it was really great to see Paul George back. And the way he played was so encouraging. This was the Paul George that we've seen from him in a while, since I can't remember the last time. I think probably since the Golden State game right before the All-Star break, but he looked even better in this one, and it started from the first quarter. You know, the initial matchups, Tyus Jones was on Terrence, Kuzma was on Kawhi, Denny Avdia was on Harden, Shamet was on Paul George, and Marvin Bagley was on Daniel Tice, and Bagley was in drop. Plumlee and Tice were also in drop, and the Clippers were switching 1 through 4 as usual. And the start of the game was all PG. Super aggressive, getting to the rim, getting into his bag, going low on his dribble, tween cross. He was looking sharp, stopping on a dime. He even had an elbow touch. You guys know how much I love elbow P. Gets the ball on that right elbow. He just turns without even dribbling and scores. And he had 11 points in the first quarter. Absolutely love the way he played for the game. He was our second leading scorer, I believe, with... Actually, no, he was our third leading scorer. Kawhi ended up having 27. Wow. Didn't even feel like that because he got off to a slower start. But 22 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, no turnovers. How about that? On 8 for 15 shooting and 2 for 6 from 3 for Paul George in 30 minutes of play. I was really happy. And you know, everyone's going to say, it's just the Wizards. It's just the Wizards. It proves nothing. But here's the thing about Paul George. I don't think that when he's at his best, anybody can really guard him. I think it's all in his head. It's all about the mindset he goes out with. Maybe he sees the Wizards and he's like, okay, they suck. They don't play good defense. They can't guard me. But he needs to have that mindset regularly. And, you know, the guys in the broadcast, Jim Jackson and Brian, they're talking about it all the time. An aggressive Paul George is a good Paul George. And it's only the times where we don't like when he's super aggressive is when Kawhi will be having a better game than him and he'll still shoot more shots. But that wasn't really the case in this one because he shot 15 shots, which is totally solid. All 3 of our big 3 in the starting lineup had 22-plus points. Paul George had 22, Kawhi Leonard 27, James Harden 28. And here's what I'll say. Our defense It wasn't great in my opinion. Still too much weak switching. Not good enough staying in front of the ball. It felt like we were put in rotation way too much. They scored 115 points, but our offense was lights out. And it was great to see a game where, our offense returned to what we saw when we were playing our best basketball. And again, that definitely is partially because it's the Wizards, but you got to take anything you can get. You got to take care of business. We needed this win to get back to winning ways, and we are 38-20 on the season. This was our 29th home game, so we only have 12 left. I wasn't able to attend this one because I was coaching my teenage team. So I've been to 20 games and I've missed 9 this season. So hopefully my career high of going to games was in the 2022 season with 22 regular season games and then one that playing game against the Pels, but it may have been 23 and 24. I'm pretty close to passing that, so I hopefully will. But in the first quarter, Clippers outscored the Wizards 33-30. Kyle Kuzma was going ballistic. I believe he had 11 points in the first, but he had 26 at the half. And Kawhi was a little cold to start the game. Russ came in and had 2 really good takes to the rim. And you know who else I thought was really solid? Din 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 din. Tice, baby. Hey, Tice, he started the game with some conviction. Finishing on the roll, knocking down that pick and pop 3. And again, it really does help our spacing. How about that pocket pass from Paul George in the second half and Daniel Tice throwing it down with authority? That was beautiful. Daniel Tice started in place of Zoo, who was out with his second straight game with an illness. Hopefully, he will be fine for the next one. And it was, just get well soon, Zoo. We need you. 9 points, 8 rebounds, and no turnovers for Daniel on 4 for 5 shooting and 1 for 1 from deep. How about that in 20 minutes? Mason, I thought he was okay. His plus minus was good. He rebounded well. Defensively, he still bleeds a lot of points to me, but he was a plus 12. And I think every single Clipper that played was in the plus and the plus minus. They were. Mason Plumlee had 4 points and 10 rebounds off the bench on 2 for 5 shooting in 20 minutes of play. But yeah, my takeaway, number 1, Paul George. Super aggressive, looked great. Yes, he had half his points in the first quarter, but we didn't even really need to play him much more. We did give him some extended burn in the fourth quarter because this was one of those games that was over by the start of the fourth quarter. We outscored the Wiz 46-34 in the second. You heard that correctly. We scored 46 points in one quarter. And coming up, I'm going to talk about who was leading that charge. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams, including your Clippers, with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Clippers winning this one by a score of 140-115. Solid atmosphere, it sounded like, on a Friday night. Friday nights are always good atmospheres. Clippers attendance just continues to be really, really strong this season. Another sellout. I can't even count. I've lost track of how many straight sellouts we've had. It's been a great year for attendance, as it should be with the team that we have and the star power that we have. So I think it was just so funny, seeing those Laker fans talking all that trash after they beat us in the regular season game and won the season series for the first time since 2012, by the way. Last time since 2012. The last time these guys won the season series against us, Mike Brown was their head coach. You remember how long ago that was? We didn't even have Jamal Crawford yet. So for them to say, we're evicting you and, you're about to leave. You're acting like we're sad to leave the Staples Center. Like, I love Staples Center. It's a little emotional for me because that was the first stadium I grew up with. But we're getting an upgrade. So their jokes are, falling very flat. Flat as their team's record compared to us right now. But credit to them. They beat us in those games and they outplayed us in the season series. But I just think it's funny when they talk trash about our attendance because the Lakers have fans everywhere. And, of course, when you have a Laker-Clipper game in L.A., you will probably end up getting more Laker fans. But in the other games, the rest of the season, when we don't play the Celtics and the Warriors, every game is a true home game for us. And that is something that's very underestimated by fans who do not go to games. So let's talk about the guy who took over that second quarter and really just kind of took the game by the scruff of the neck, and that was James Harden. And I've labeled this segment second quarter JH because it's funny. He started out 0 for 2 with a turnover in the first quarter, but then in the second, he caught fire. 5 straight threes for James Harden. He was killing that high drop, just walking in at threes, getting into the paint for floaters. It actually started out with an and one, and he just took off from there. He was threading the needle really well. What a game from James. And it's good to see him have that kind of game. 21 points in the second quarter for James Harden. In the game, he had 28 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, 3 blocks. How about that? And a lot of those were those classic Harden strips. 9 for 13 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and 4 for 4 from the line. Sorry, guys. Usually I mute, but I got no time to micro-edit this one. But James Harden, really good performance. Terrence Mann, they talked about it at the top of the show, at the top of the broadcast, how he's been playing really well since the All-Star break. And boy, did he continue. Really solid offensive output. I think defensively, he still needs to be a little bit better staying attached at the point of attack. But offensively, doing a great job cutting. He actually didn't even shoot 1 3. But his finishing around the rim, he had a nice step-back pull-up to begin the game. And then he had one post touch. I think it was against Shamit low. Turned right over him and scored. He had 12 points, 3 boards on 6 for 7 shooting. No turnovers. So Clippers only had 8 turnovers in this game, which I love. Actually 9. But that's awesome. You know, keeping the turnovers under 10 will always spell good things. Clippers shot 57% from the field in the game, 41% from 3. The only area where I think we could have been a little bit better was free throw shooting with 76%. But granted, we had Moussa Diabate miss 2 of those in garbage time, or in, the game was overtime. And Brandon Boston was 1 for 2. But yeah, overall, shot really, really well. Moved the ball well. When they have Marvin Bagley as the 5, guarding the paint, that's not really going to be very intimidating for us in drop. He's not a great rim protector or anything. He had a double-double with 10 points and 10 rebounds, but that's open season for James Harden. Coming off a game where he played Anthony Davis, it's not the same at all. So Terrence Mann continues his hot shooting. Let's see what he's shooting from the field right now. 49% on the field for the season from the field, 32% from 3. So remember, we were at 17% from 3 at one point. We were slowly getting it up. Now he's at 32%. Can he get it to 35% by the end of the year so that we don't even remember that early stretch? Clipper fans will remember, but other fans, that would be nice. But 49% from the field, that's efficient, all right. And yeah, I love the way Terrence is playing. And then someone else in the last 2 games who stepped it up, Amir Coffey. He had a little rough couple of games coming off the All-Star break, but I think that he was really solid in this game, coming off the bench, getting into that mid-range attacking closeouts. 10 points, 4 for 4 from the field in 22 minutes for Amir, and also no turnovers, and 3 assists. The thing about Amir is that mid-range when he's attacking closeouts has been pretty foolproof this season, so you like to keep seeing him take that. And then James Harden, by the way, I don't know, I did mention his efficiency, 9 for 13 and 6 for 9 from 3. Oof. Beautiful. And I thought he had some good defensive moments where I think everybody had some bad defensive moments too, but he had some good ones, with the classic Harden strip, and he does a great job. As I've seen his whole career, I talked about this even before we got him, but his hands are great, and he does a great job of getting all ball when he slaps down, because Jim Jackson even said this in the commentary, and I tell my kids that I coach all the time, when you slap down like that, the refs are looking to call a foul. The fact that James does such a good job of getting all ball on those so frequently is pretty impressive. So, James Harden, second quarter James, got the job done. But coming up, going to be talking about the rest of the game and the unfortunate injury to Russell Westbrook. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. We are the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. All you got to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's demon time on Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Demons and Goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. All you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, Clippers winning this one 140-115. It was a rout. PG had 17 points in the first half, by the way. And also, how about the third quarter where it was Kawhi's turn to kind of get going? 11 straight points for Kawhi, 14 in the quarter. He kind of grew into the game, and you know how Kawhi is. The most consistent player on this team, doing it on both ends of the floor. Pretty efficient as well. Shot 45%. So not actually too efficient for him, but not a big deal at all. 27 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Just 1 turnover for him on 9 for 20 shooting. 2 for 8 from 3, so not the best shooting night from 3 for him, but 7 for 7 from the line, and you like to see him get 7 free throw attempts. Kawhi, again, he's been our best player all year. Just got to keep it going, keep it going. How about those 2 straight putback dunks, by the way? One from Terrence Mann with one hand, then the other with Kawhi. We had 3 dunks in that third quarter, one from Tyson, the other from those 2. And Kawhi and James didn't have to play the fourth, which was awesome. But let's talk about the bad news. In the first half, Russell Westbrook, it looked like he jammed his finger. His reaction was so subtle, it looked like he had just jammed his finger. But this guy legitimately fractured his hand. And I forget which hand it was, but that's terrible. Fractured hand is going to be a couple of weeks, I think. As much of an Iron Man as Russ is, and he had played every game this season, and the wood that I kept knocking on, I'm still knocking, just hoping it's not too bad, because we still have Kawhi, Paul George. That's the thing about Paul George. They said after the game, he's had this knee discomfort all season, apparently. All season. So it's like what LeBron said. You know, you're never going to be 100% healthy at this age with all the wear and tear. And Paul George has been through too much. But is he good enough to play and look at his best? That's all that matters. And it looks like he is. So the fact that he's not out too long, he was only out for 2 games. He's only missed, 5 games this season? Let me check. We've played 58 games. And Paul has played in 53. So, 5 games this season. Kawhi Leonard has only missed 4 games this season. So, I mean, you'll absolutely take that all day long. And James Harden still hasn't missed one. I'm going to keep knocking so far since he's been a member of the Clips. So, the Russell Westbrook injury, what does this mean? Man, so unfortunate. You know, the energy that he gives us off the bench, the rim pressure, the rebounding, the toughness. It's a tough blow, man. It really is. But here's the thing. For all those that have been wanting Russ not to play as much and want Bones Highland in, well, here's the chance. Bones Highland came in, by the way, and he looked so rusty. He was overshooting everything by a mile. But that's okay. It's the first time he's back, and he hasn't played real minutes in months. So now we're going to have him as that backup role that we envisioned him in before the James Harden trade. And he's going to have to be solid. What worries me is a Mason Plumlee, Bones Highland, Norman Powell second unit. That worries me a little bit on the defensive side. But offensively, hopefully Bones Highland can show off his playmaking, because I've been saying for a long time he is a very underrated passer. And then his scoring is, we know about his scoring. So this is the chance for Bones to show. Good thing we didn't trade him for someone else, because, you know, a lot of people were saying we need to go get a big wing, which we do lack to a degree. And we should have traded Bones Highland since he's not going to play, but now he is going to play. So we're just waiting to hear the timetable on Russ, but it's super unfortunate. Super. I still think we can manage in the regular season, but I hope we can get him back before the playoffs, because I really think Russ, you know, people are going to say, oh, he'll lose playoff games for you. He might have some crucial mistakes in playoff games, but I think you can say the same about Paul and Harden. The thing about Russ is he can also win you a playoff game, like he did help us win last year in Game 1. When he shot 3 for 19 and still made the big free throws, had the huge block and knocked it off Booker, and had huge offensive rebounds. So we hope you're back soon, Russ. It's not going to be the same without you, and hopefully the team can maintain a level of competitiveness in the sense that when things lack energy, who's going to bring it? Who's going to bring that toughness to the table? That guaranteed spark in the arena? I don't know. Now, I will say this about Bones. He is a crowd pleaser. People love him. People absolutely love him. When he would go off, he get the oohs and ahs. He gets everybody excited and jumping. So hopefully he'll have that same effect in this stretch that he's going to be playing. So as far as Russ, he played 10 minutes. He had 6 points, and he was 2 for 3 from the field. Bones was 1 for 7 when he came in, but he did have 7 assists. He was getting really fancy, too. Norman Powell, a little solid night return for him in terms of back to an efficient game, but he didn't shoot well from 3 again. He had 9 points and 4 assists and 3 rebounds on 4 for 8 shooting and 1 for 3 from deep. So 50% from the field, 33% from downtown in 22 minutes. Hopefully Norm can get back to shooting at his best. All right, so that's basically all for that game. As far as the next game at Minnesota on Sunday at 12:30, I am not feeling good about that one because it's 12:30 and it's against Minnesota. But I'll say this. I did talk about this in the last episode. I'm not a huge fan of Russell Westbrook in the Minnesota matchup because they have great point of attack defense, and when Gobert's sitting down there, and they put their big men on Russ. So when Russ gets to the basket, and he gets to the basket, he still has Gobert or a big man in his rear view. And I think Russ struggles to finish contested layups now. So I think that matchup is not one for him. And hopefully Bones' shooting can get us to spread the Timberwolves out and maybe make Gobert have to cover a little bit more ground. Because Gobert has really owned us in the 2 games in terms of his defensive presence. He really has. So this is a massive game. And also, Minnesota just lost to Sacramento, who's playing some pretty good basketball recently. So as far as that updated standings watch, the Thunder and the Wolves are at 18 losses. The Nuggets are at 19 losses. And we're at 20. So despite the rough stretch, losing 3 out of the first 4 games since the All-Star break, we are only 2 games back in the loss column against Minnesota. So if we beat them on Sunday, only 1 game back in the loss column from the first seed. This is huge. This is massive. So let's see how it goes. But if we lose them a 3rd straight time, I don't even know what to say. Because this matchup is not good. What we need to see is 2 of the 3 of Harden, Paul, or Kawhi play well. In both games, they have not. We need to see it. And how are we going to handle Karl Anthony Towns? What we need to do is we're going to need to double him. When he gets the ball against Terrence Mann or Kawhi or whoever, we should just put Kawhi Leonard on Cat. When we switch 1 through 4 and have Terrence or James guarding him, we got to double that. We got to double it and make him a passer. And I would say leave McDaniels open. McDaniels had a really, really good game against us scoring the first time, but I don't know if that's the norm. But anyway, and hopefully we get a good game from Norm. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. You can subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. That vlog I did against the Lakers was a crazy video. You guys should go check that out. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. Hope you appreciate this little bonus weekend episode. The next episode will be on Monday after the Wolves game. That will be a big one. Clippers are 38-20. 2 more wins away from 40. We did not get our 40th win before 20 losses, the Phil Jackson 40 before 20 rule. So I don't know. How much do you guys believe in that? Do you think that makes us a non-championship team because of that? I don't know. You let me know in the comments. Get well soon, Russ. We're going to miss you, bro. I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments. They're going to say, oh, this is great. It's a blessing in disguise. I don't believe that at all. Russ, get well soon, buddy. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.